Walking is one of the best activities you could do, hands down, for health, longevity, and yes, fat loss. But what we're going to talk about today are hacks. Hacks you can use to take your walking to the next level to enhance its fat loss and health improving effects. Let's go.
Hold little 3-pound weights and pump your arms.
No, I'm so glad you said that. One of the hacks is not walking harder.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here.
Hard walking.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no. We're going to talk about
It's still a thing. You see it every once in a while,
You
right?
do, and that's what people think. Like, how would I make my walking more effective? And what they do is they turn it into running or something.
Prancercise.
No. We're not going to talk about that kind of stuff. But first, let's talk about why walking is just in general so amazing. I think the first reason is because people can still do it with relatively good technique. So the average person can just walk more, and we don't see this risk of injury. We don't see, people have to like dress in workout clothes and schedule it kind of stuff. It's like, it's one of those easy things you could do that most people can still do. And you see these just general improvements.
Hopefully not a lot of barriers to entry for that.
You guys say that now. We'll see how well this ages.
Yeah.
Well, we see all the rascal scooters, so we're up against a new force.
Well, I mean, and the way that tech is evolving so fast. I mean, did you guys think at this point in your life that you wouldn't ever have to go to the grocery store or go get food? Yeah,
you're right. We're on our way to Wall-E.
Yeah,
but for now, it's not the case.
Right.
Now, the data on walking is pretty incredible, and that's why we advocate for it so much. By the way, I never advocated for walking as a form of activity as an early trainer because I just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Back half of my career is the number one thing I recommended. And the data on this is pretty interesting. Most of the benefits, about 85% of the benefits you'll get from walking occur right around 8,000 steps, meaning 8,000 steps a day for most people. You're going to get most of the benefits of walking, so you don't have to go crazy with it. And most people can accomplish 8,000 steps a day by just adding a walk or two a day and being a little bit more aware of their movement. So it's not a hard accomplishment, and then the health effects are just, they're incredible. It's easy to do, right? So let's talk about the first thing you can do. This is all backed by data, by the way. Frequent walks are more effective for fat loss and for health in comparison to one long walk. In other words, one 90-minute walk would be less effective overall than 3 30-minute walks. And you could do this across the board, right? 3 10-minute walks are better than 1 30-minute walk, and et cetera. So walking throughout the day is better overall for your health and longevity than having one really long scheduled walk. And I think this is good news for people because rather than having
to achieve.
Yeah, it's easier to achieve. You don't have to set out a block time to go do the 45-minute walk. You could literally walk a little bit throughout the day, set your Apple Watch or your alarm. Oh, here, I'm going to go do my 10-minute walk. Kind of do that a few times a day. And you're better off than doing one.
Well, I can imagine too a lot of psychological benefits to that in terms of breaking up your day, and then also being able to kind of decompress because of our normal schedule is so driven and we're so productive. Like if you're not productive, then God forbid. And so to break that up and then just be able to kind of have a meditative space for you. Mentally would serve you quite a bit.
Well,
as well.
list all the reasons why, right? Circulation, digestion, blood sugar.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
I think that one's not talked about enough because I would say one of the hardest things for people to do is to adhere to a diet. One of the things that cause some of these cravings to be so difficult to resist is those large spikes and crashes in blood sugar.
Yep.
If you made a habit to every other hour or every time you ate to
controls it.
It controls it. It really mitigates the swings.
Absolutely.
And those swings play a massive role in these cravings that people end up getting. And so and that's like one of those things that I don't think people think a lot about. I mean, I think most people understand that movement, activity, blood flow, calorie expenditure, those seem pretty obvious, I think, to the average person. I would make the argument on the blood sugar and cravings one maybe being even bigger, and you don't even realize that it's doing. Most people don't realize that's what's happening.
And the big one, and I'm not even overstating this. It's easier. It's as a trainer who trained lots and lots of people were more consistent with their walking when I had them do small walks throughout the day versus one long walk. At worst, they would miss 1 or 2 small walks, but still walked. What happened with the long walks, if they missed it, they missed the whole thing. It's just harder to schedule. So consistency here is like paramount And this can't be overstated. But, there's studies just besides that, right? There are studies that compare cardio in general, like 1 hour cardio versus 2 30-minute sessions. And there is a fat burning advantage to the frequent shorter sessions as well. And it's not a huge advantage, but if you stretch that over time, it makes a big difference. So it's easier and it's better for fat loss. Like for me, this is a no-brainer. Now you brought up blood sugar. Here's the second hack. Walk after your meals for insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
This has a profound effect on your body's insulin sensitivity. And all the longevity experts now agree that insulin sensitivity is a very important metric for overall long-term health and longevity. Your ability to for your body to react to insulin, in other words, stay sensitive to it, right? If you go in the opposite direction and start to lose insulin sensitivity, that leads to pre-diabetes and diabetes. But it also causes mitochondrial dysfunction, damage to the body and cells. And it also starts to increase your body's fat storage capacity, or just the tendency to store body fat. Also hurts your ability to build muscle. So walking just right after you eat, right? So 10-minute walk. If you did a 10-minute walk right after you ate, this has such a good, consistent effect on blood sugar. I remember talking to Dr. Seeds about this. He's, an expert in this field, and he said, "Man, if people just walk for 10 minutes after breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we would solve." We would mostly solve type 2 diabetes. Yeah. Just that alone.
Yeah.
Just that one thing alone. So take your walks, make them smaller, time them after meals, and you have just taken your 30-minute walk that you might have done during the day. Now you got 3 10-minute walks, and it's far more effective, especially if you do it after your meal. I'm very sensitive to this. So I'll give you my personal anecdote. So I lift weights really hard in the morning. Then I come here and I eat breakfast. Now, lifting weights is very good for insulin sensitivity. And if you eat within a few hours of a heavy lifting session, you're going to control blood sugar quite well. So I come and eat breakfast after lifting and I feel fine. Now, if I eat and I don't lift, especially if I eat the kind of meals that you guys see my breakfasts are pretty big, I'll start to crash about 40 minutes later. I'll start to feel sleepy. But that doesn't happen to me when I work out first, right? Then we come in here. The next meal is lunch, and after lunch, we typically go on a short walk, which is about 20 minutes long. If I do that walk, I don't get the crash later.
Yeah.
If I eat and then we sit here and record, I find myself nodding off during the podcast. I start to notice this. What's happening, my blood sugar is not being affected very well. My insulin sensitivity isn't very good, and the way it feels for me is like brain fog and fatigue. So I notice it. I'm very sensitive to it.
Yeah.
So it's a big one. Next, this is a hack that will, it's called habit stacking, but really what you're doing here is you're making the walk feel more valuable to yourself and somewhat more enjoyable. And that is to listen to growth-minded content while you walk. Now, data on this is pretty interesting. If you're walking while consuming information, you're more, this is something for people who are studying, by the way, for tests and stuff. You're more likely to retain it.
Yeah.
And you're more creative with your thought process. Writers have known this for a long time. One of the ways to break through writer's block, or musicians know this, right? They're trying to write a song. What do? They go outside and they go
change your environment.
Change your environment. So while listening to, in fact, one of the number one ways that our podcast is consumed with our listeners is either on a walk or while they work out. And what they don't realize, they just hacked into a way to absorb more information. And the reason why it's your body's moving, your brain works a little bit better, and it also makes the walk more enjoyable because it's like this pro-growth minded activity. This is one of my favorite things to do if I go on a walk, is to put my headphones on
and just
listen to
another
meeting when we walk than when we don't.
Right,
Sometimes we'll sit in here and kind of be distracted and type of deal. So no, and so it just, again, the data shows you absorbing more information. It feels more enjoyable, and you're actually going to probably be more likely to be consistent with your walks. So lastly is to walk with someone else, especially someone that you consider important in your life. What this tends to do is it tends to foster the relationship, because you're making time aside to spend with that person and you're walking while you're doing it. You brought this up first, Adam, how going for a walk with your wife on a daily basis is a great plus for your relationship. I found the same thing with my kids or with my wife. Like, we're going to go on a walk, take them with me, even if it's for 10 minutes. It's good for, our connection relationship, and I'm doing the walk at the same time.
Yeah, any good therapist will tell you, like, a strong relationship is rooted in good communication. And I think a lot of people have the skills, or at one point had great communication with their spouse, or else they probably wouldn't have married them. But what we tend to do is we tend to fill that space up or distract ourselves all day long, or we just get so busy that we don't even realize that we've lost that communication that we have. And so creating this space for, this is my opportunity to go for a nice little walk. It's also a great time for me to leave my phone at home and my wife to leave her phone at home. And then the two of us just walk and just create that space with no intention of, we need to talk about these things, or it doesn't go like that. It's just, we're going for a walk.
Yeah, it's funny how you end up like sectioning off areas of the house, like and divide and conquer within like really close proximity. And you're just not having that connection with eye contact and body language, and all of that's like lost. But when you're walking, it's like you're very open and receptive, and a lot more, you pay attention a lot more.
There's different levels of communication and things to communicate about. You're right. Like that. And I think that happens with a lot of couples, especially ones that have kids and building a life together. Obviously your children and household responsibilities and your work takes a massive priority. When you marry a great partner and teammate, you guys realize that dividing and conquering and focusing on things is one of the best ways to be successful. But many times we lose ourselves or our relationship,
Totally.
and the other things that we fell in love with, or what we really like about each other. And so creating that space, I have found in our relationship it's probably close 1 and 2, the biggest hacks I've shared before, the reading or the listening to audiobooks at night and or the walks, I think have just been these incredible relationship hacks, with going in with, like I said, no intention of like, we need to do this or we need to talk about this. Like, I think sometimes people make that mistake.
It's
like
the space.
Yeah, they wait for, there's like, we need to talk, so let's go for a walk. I said, well, you're going to enjoy that all the time.
Yeah.
But if you make a habit of, we need to walk, and some of the rules are we leave our phones there, and just create that space, tends to open up a lot, connect better. And for some people, depending on how much you've disconnected, it might take a few times before that starts flowing again. But it's a beautiful thing when it does.
It's funny, this fit tip, it's so general and it seems simple and just for your everyday average person. But even just talking to somebody like Alex Whitehair recently, and who brought up the fact that even your most high performance, professional athlete doesn't walk. They do really high explosive movements, and they train really hard, and they sit around.
Yeah.
And it's just like the benefit of walking itself is the reiteration of the skill of movement. And it's just something that it has so many other benefits to it, like that we had mentioned previous to that even like somebody at a really high performing level needs to incorporate every day.
It's the most fundamental of all human movements.
Right.
And it's the one thing that we do better than any other animal is trek. For long distances, it's walk on 2 legs. This is one of the determining characteristics of a human, is that we can do that very effectively. So pretty cool. So